Alright, so new rollers came in today. I'm going to go ahead and replace, I'll do all of them. Actually, I'm going to just start with the Z-axis first. Run a quick test print and see if that was the issue that I was having with the layer line issue. And I'll show you how to take all this off so we can replace these. So we're taking the 4mm Allen wrench. We're going to remove the top rail, or the top extrusion. I don't know the exact name for these, but the top rail X thing, extrusion. Mixing up a lot of these names for this machine. I don't know the exact name of the parts. Okay. Put that to the side. All right, and then the next step, we're gonna take the lead screws off. Now I have these supports printed for my X-gantry. At this point, we can just remove the couplers. And actually just bring this up a little bit. Move the bed all the way about there. Now at this point, your entire X-gantry will move freely. Now what you want to do next is I'm going to remove this zip tie I have here. I'm also going to disconnect the X motor and the end stop limit switch. I'm going to, instead of just taking this whole thing off, I'm just going to remove these screws right here to free off this part that holds the wheels. Okay, so there's one screw. It's just two. It's going to be the black screws. You might want to move the bed a little bit back so it has more support. Okay. Now, what's going to happen is that this is going to completely free up. You can just slide this over the top and take it off completely. And this is the part where some people have difficulties installing the dual Z screw upgrade kit, because like I mentioned in the last video, on the V2, the kit for the V2 for the dual lead screw fits the V2 Neo, since they have almost the same frame, but the V2 has a hole here all the way through, and in this case the Neo doesn't. So normally what will come with your kit is this piece right here, and this is a piece that has, of course, this nut or whatever it's called for the second lead screw. And what you want to do here is you want to assemble this to this piece, and then once you have this, you want to make sure your eccentric nut is loose all the way, so you can actually just slide this over and then just align it with the X gantry here, and then just screw it in. You just want to make sure it's aligned as best as you can, and then just tighten the eccentric nut to get this everything tied into place. If you're having difficulties, for example, getting this in, it's not coming in smooth like that. If you're having issues pushing it down, that means your wheels are too tight. And if you try and push it more, you're going to do what I did. And what I did was damage the wheels a little bit, which I think is the reason why I'm having that layer issue. So once we're done changing these wheels, that's what I'm going to figure out, if that was the issue or if it was not the issue. Um, that's how you would install the second lead screw, and then everything else, I mean, is very easy. It's very straightforward. You would just install your second motor. You do get the T-nuts, um, and you can use those. They're fine. But if you can get longer screws, these are, I believe they're M3s or M4s, but they're the longer ones that bolt right into your one of these Z rails, and that would make it a lot more stable, so it doesn't move around, and it'll be aligned possibly the best as possible. Um, but I think that's really all that comes with the kit. Give me a second.
All right, guys. So normally what comes in with this kit is you do get three longer screws and three extra spacers. So those three extra screws and three spacers will go into what holds the Z screw, and that's what bolts into where your palm wheels are. So those extra screws give you the ability to add that extra piece of metal to hold in your Z screw.
Everything else, these T nuts are for this, and for this. But that's really it. This is the hardest part to install. All right, so we're going to take this apart, and I'm going to change out these wheels. All right, so what we're going to do this is we're going to take 3 millimeter, like that. I'm going to take an 8 millimeter socket. You can use this crappy wrench that came with the printer. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to do this one wheel at a time. So pull out 3 new wheels. These are the ones that are V-shaped. Not really sure what difference it makes, to be honest. I'd probably just try and get the generic ones. The reason I want to do this one at a time is because of that. So I'm going to grab the nut. Oh, shoot. By the way, this nut, you see that little tip that it has? It does go inwards like that. It's going to go like that, like that. Grab a little spacer. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this all the way down. Don't want to over tighten these because remember, this is aluminum, and if you over tighten this, you might actually warp it. And I think that's what happened on my main, on the right side of whatever this is called, on the right side of the printer. I did notice it was warped. I'm not sure if it was like that from the factory or not, or if, because I don't remember tightening it that much. But just be careful with this because it's all aluminum and it bends really, really easily if you over tighten something. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing for these two. I'll probably just speed this up in the video because I don't know how many times you want to see it. Okay, so this part's done. I want to make sure that the eccentric nut here is at the most loose position. That makes sense. Like it's pushed furthest out, so it has enough space to clear um, the axis here. Okay, so you see how it's not sliding in there like butter? Okay, that's kind of what we want. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted to like just slide in there like butter. If it catches, I'm here just loosen up the nut a little bit more until it just slides in. We don't want any pressure on these wheels. Well, we do want a little bit of pressure, obviously, but you want to be able to spin them and feel it just the slightest friction, especially on this axis, from my experience. And then once you're done here, you can actually bolt this down. But there is one more thing, and that's the other side. The other side, though, it's a little bit more complex. For doing the other side, you will have to remove the entire X-gantry, and to do that, you just basically just lift it up entirely, no pop up, including the extruder itself. So let's do that right now. Want to be careful with this. So it's going to come up just like that. And then now, if you don't want to hold the entire gantry, you can remove the two nuts here, the two black ones. You weren't able to access this because of the extrusion slot there. But you can actually remove this now. One cool thing about those mounts or supports or holders, whatever you want to call it, is that they make this pretty easy. So what I am going to do is I'm going to remove the I will remove this. I'm going to show you a trick, at least a trick that helped me out once I put this all back together. Not really sure how helpful it is, but I found that it made it easier to align everything, put everything back together. Because if you notice, once you loosen these, they actually you can actually move them in and out a little bit. And if you notice, I also made a mistake here, and that's my bad. Because I forgot you have to remove the belt in this case, and also this cover here if you want to do it all here. Now, what you could do is just remove the belt and then remove the motor. But I feel that's going to be more complicated. So, you know what? Yeah, it's going to be harder to install it without doing that. So, let's do that. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to. Now, because I have more weight on the front, I'm going to flip these around so it doesn't like just try and want to crash on the table. So it's not going anywhere now. So let's grab the 2 millimeter. That screw. There's one more screw on the bottom here. I have a bunch of spare screws, so I don't really mind if they go offline, but you might not have a bunch of spare screws. And this just pops off after that. And from here, you'll notice you have your belt. And all you have to do here is completely loosen up your belt. And you don't have to take the entire belt off, but you do have to slide your belt from here. So this part right here, just slide it down. See how it has that little slot there? That's where your belt goes into, and it goes in this way. And just remove it. Or remove this. Just pull it back. Now I can just put the belt over. I'm going to remove this. This is also 2 millimeters. These screws are a little bit small, so be careful not to lose these. As you're taking off the last screw, just hold the motor so it doesn't fall and possibly get damaged. Okay, let's put that aside. Okay, so now what we can do is flip that over, move the last screw that was there. Make sure you hold it with one hand. There it is. And just put this to the side. Okay, so again, just snug them down. And we have all the 3 wheels on the wheel nails. All the 3 wheels on there now. If it does not glide in, then you want to loosen your eccentric wheel. Alright, so in this case, I've already loosened it up as much as I can. So if this happens to you, which I was expecting this to happen on this one too, is that if you are already on the loose setting, or if it goes down and that's as loose as you can get it, it's not just like, okay, just check the wheel for any damage that may have caused. If the wheel is okay, then you're fine. But here's what you would do in this case. You're going to just loosen it up just a little bit. On these 2 sides, just like that. Okay, so they're just a little bit loose. And now, if you put it back in, it should slide in. Now, these move a little bit, just a little bit when they're loose. Once you have it in there, then you can go ahead and tighten it down. This will be a little tricky with the camera, but let's see if I can. This is probably where a lot of you are going to have issues, because I believe this is because this was bent at one point. And again, you only want to snug them down. You don't want to tighten them really tight. It's just a little bit, just like that. Okay, so it should just glide. Now this is the loosest setting that I can get it to, so this is just going to have to do. Make sure your wheels slide. You want friction, but not too much friction. You want to have as even as you can get them on both sides. So if you get stuck on there, or on this side too, on the left side, then just loosen them a little bit, put it back down, and then snug them down here. You want this to be able to move as freely as possible. Like, move them up slowly, up and down just a little bit. If you feel it catching something, your wheel might be damaged, or they're too tight. So you want them to really, really have no type of like bumps, flat spots, anything like that. If they do, then that's going to reflect on your print, and it's going to look weird. It's going to have weird lines. I'm hoping that's what's going on with mine. So I'm hoping that's really all there is to it. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and align the. We're going to go ahead and put everything back together on this side, on the X-gantry. Now, the easiest way you can do this is by taking these out again, and we can assemble them here. Remember, the only part on the dual Z is getting this tightened down because it goes here and you can't put your Allen wrench there. So once it's snug here, you're fine. Remember, these are the black ones. At this point, you can actually just throw those over the X rail, and then you can install your stepper motor for the X, the X motor. So that's what I'm going to do. So you want to be very careful at this point. You really don't want to snag your wheels on those sharp corners of the slots. And that's pretty much it for this part. You just have to reinstall your stepper motor. So yeah, at this point, you can put your motor back in. This is going to be a 2mm Allen wrench. At this point, don't tighten it down. Just make sure the thread's in there. And it's only 3 screws. Don't forget that. At this point, you can just tighten this down. So first thing I'm going to do is install the lead screws back in. Pick up some dust there. So get a rag. Clean that dust off. I will re-grease these later, but okay, so like I mentioned, I have this, so it kind of keeps it level. I'm just going to tighten these. I'm going to reconnect the X motor. And I'm going to reconnect the don't need these anymore. So make sure your belt is looped. And again, you're just going to reach to the back through that little slot for the belt. If your little screw came off, no biggie, just put it back in. Okay, now make sure your belt's the right tension. Okay, and we're going to install the X limit switch now. And we're going to reconnect the cable for the X limit switch. And lastly, I'm going to reinstall the gantry thingy.
All right, so at this point, you just want to go around your machine and check if your wheels are adjusted correctly. Remember, you want them not too tight, not too loose. So just go around, check them, make sure they feel right.
All right, so that feels good. So now you kind of just want to move this all the way up just to make sure it's not binding. But basically, just want to make sure it goes all the way up with no binding. All right, so that actually feels great. So at this point, we're all done now for reals this time. Run a couple of test prints, testing the wall in this case, and see if this fixes the issue. And in part two, I'll change out these wheels and bed ones, and I'll show you how we can install a timing belt for this as well. So stay tuned for the next video. Bye.